What's happening, everyone? Welcome to GBALL Vision. I hope you are having an awesome day today. We're going over 6 knives that have unique blade shapes here today, and we're going to kick it off with the Kuby Velocha. Now, this is a fairly newer knife within the last year or so, and a lot of these are going to maintain their normal or a normal blade shape, but they're going to have some different twists to them that make them unlike a normal drop point or a normal sheep's foot and so on. And kicking us off, I think this Kuby Velocha has an extremely unique blade shape. Typically, a drop point is going to be a little taller. They're going to have a little bit of a straight edge that goes to a belly, that goes to a tip. And you see here, this is a very short blade, so it's not tall. It's very short. It's very long. And there is no straight edge on this blade whatsoever. From the point that the edge starts to the tip, it's it's a very slow roll of belly all the way to the tip, which is it's very unique, very cool. And one of the other main attractions to this knife is look at the blade stock that goes to the tip. Extremely, extremely thick. And I love how it has this level down once it gets here to the last part going to the tip. And this blade shape, I believe, now I have not talked to Sharif, the designer of this knife, but I fully believe this knife was meant to be a poking knife, a stabbing type knife, whether it's poking certain materials and dragging down or what have you. It's a pokey, stabby knife, and it's going to do that exact task very, very well, and it's not going to have much effect on this blade here because of how thick this blade stock is, because of how skinny this blade shape is. It's going to just do piercing tasks very, very well. I actually plan on doing a demonstration with this in a video here in the future just to see how well that tip holds up and how well it really pierces through materials as a poking blade shape. But this thing is ultra comfortable. I believe that it would be, or that it is, very utilitarian. This would make a great EDC knife. It would make a great work knife. It even has some gentlemanly attributes as well. I mean, it's very clean looking. It's got clean lines. It's just when that bad boy opens up, you can tell this thing was made to be a poker. Now, let's go ahead and move on to the next one. So we're bringing out a big dog for this one. And it's not that this in itself is a unique blade shape, because this scaled down looks a lot like a lot of other sheep's foot blades, and that's exactly what this is. It's a sheep's foot blade, but what makes this truly unique is this knife is well over 9 inches long, and typically you do not see a sheep's foot blade that is over 3.5, 3.25 inches. I mean, this is well over a 4-inch blade. Typically, you'll see drop points and tantos and clip points and things of that nature that have a lot longer of a blade, i.e., the CJRB Pyrite that has a drop point blade. And I mean, look at just how the Gungnir from Renegade Provisions Co. just overtakes this thing. It engulfs it. And this is not a small knife. This is the Pyrite XL. And that takes me to just a quick demonstration. Look at the difference in these drop point blades. just very unique stuff. It's very cool. The intricacies of knife designs and just different things that come along with knife collecting. You start to really pay attention to the very minute details and just kind of seeing what is what with each individual knife. And that's kind of what sparked this video idea for this unique blade shape deal, is just looking at them and just realizing they're not just like every other knife. And from my experience handling and having well over 400 knives, 500 knives at this point, there's nothing that I've ever handled or had that reminds me quite of this knife. It is just ridiculous. It's overbuilt, and this thing would be a true workhorse. I mean, for EDC, for work, I don't think it would matter. Now, it's not going to do poking tasks the best. You do still maintain a little bit of a tip there, but for a lot of objects and cuts that a lot of people would make, you can still get 85% of them done with a sheep's foot blade that still maintains a little bit of a point. But the Renegade Provisions Co. Gungnir is just a unique knife in itself, and it has this truly massive, tall, long sheep's foot blade that's just amazingly well finished, and it's just beautiful. It comes down very, very thin. It's a hollow grind, just exceptionally well done. Riot OEM'd. Let's go ahead and move on to the next one. Next up, we have the Fox Knives Voxnez Chillin. This is an M398. You have blue anodized aluminum pivot collars. You have carbon fiber that is extremely well done. Aluminum backspacer. This is sporting a Lynch Northwest deep carry titanium pocket clip. There are skiffs for bearings in this guy, so it's even more well tuned than when Kevin Lefty got it, and I bought this off of him. It's exceptionally well done, and you know, at first glance, it looks like, oh, it looks like a drop point with a big belly, right? Well, when you put the knife down, now it starts to kind of remind you of almost like a kukri, or and that's what this is designed off of. It's a folding kukri, a folding shillin type knife, and I just think, and in my experience, the Vosti Nightshade and the Chillin here are extremely good everyday carry knives, and they also perform very, very good on work type tasks. Now, they're not going to do your, and they still will do pretty well at your chiseling type task because you have this belly here. It depends on what it is and the scenario, just like everything else. When you're talking about blade shapes and what they're cutting, the grind, and all that sort of thing, of course, it's going to be solely based on each individual scenario. But in my experience, these things, the way these are shaped and designed, you're naturally pointing down. As soon as you grip this knife, the blade is already naturally pointing down. So as soon as you go to lift your hand, your wrist, you are already right where you need to be. And the other thing that's great about these, and who I would most direct these to, is someone who opens a lot of, like a stocker at a grocery store, or someone who stocks shelves, hardware stores, someone who deals with a lot of strapping and things of that nature, where you got to get in behind a strap or what have you and pull forward. Because of how this is designed, it just slides behind the material or the banding or whatever it is so well. And because of that belly and how it comes back into the handle, it just really kind of traps things this way. And as you pull, it really takes it back down into here, and you can keep your finger there as kind of like a guide, a guard, to keep that material out of your plunge area there. It's just an exceptional EDC knife, and these are very unique. There are only a handful that I even know of that are at least worth talking about. And as far as I know, this is the most premium version of a Chillin kukri style design. The Fox Knives Chillin, designed by Voxnez with M398. It's exceptional. It's a great EDC. It's performed awesome on work type tasks, easy to carry, slim profile for the most part. The action is incredible. That edge came very well done, and it has held up extremely well. That is the Fox Knives Chillin. Let's go ahead and move on to the next one. Next up, we have another big old boy coming in. This is the Artisan Cutlery Xcellerator. This is a new design from Artisan Cutlery, and from the minute I saw this knife, I knew I had to have it. Once I saw it and I saw the specs on how big this bad boy was, it is just an absolute monster. It's very ergonomic, even though the handle kind of directs you where to grip. It just depends on your hand size, but I think even if you have smaller hands, you're going to fit in this area, and this will be kind of open. And it has an awesome 50-50 area here where you can choke up right behind that edge, but it also has this awesome choke back area that's going to allow you to get a lot of reach if you were to need it. And then I could even see coming back here way off the knife, you're going to have minimal control, but a ton of reach. Now, back to the main part of this knife is look at that blade. Now, if this massive swedge, this harpoon was not here, and this came just basically straight down, this would look like just any old drop point blade. But because of how the grind is, this flat area here, and then you have this swedge that goes to the tip with the harpoon, it just really drives the design and the blade shape to a whole nother level. It is unlike anything I've ever seen before. And if you were to close, and I noticed this recently, if you were to close off this part of the knife, it really starts to almost look like it could be a spear point. Now, it's not, but it's just the intricacies that are really cool about this thing. And you have a nice little bit of straight edge here. You have a big old belly going up to that nice pokey tip. And that's how how I break down blade shapes. How much use can I get out of a given blade shape? And drop points are very useful. You got the straight edge, the belly, the tip, so it can poke very well. It can skin, it can slice. It's going to do a lot of things very good. Is it going to do any one thing extraordinarily good? Maybe not. But it's going to do a lot of different things at least very well. It's in RPM 9. It's coated. So it's going to be a tough steel. It's going to have good edge retention, good wear resistance. I like the RPM 9. You have this key-shaped hole here. The action is incredible. It thwacks out, and then, of course, it comes flying down closed because of that heavy blade. But it's nice and controlled, so Artisan really nailed around the pivot on this guy. Let's go ahead and move on to the next one. Next up, we have the Kunwu S Tao the sheep's foot Tao. And the reason I bring this one out is not because necessarily that this is a crazy unique blade shape, but typically you do not see a sheep's foot blade like this with a straight edge. I think that is very, very cool. Typically, a Wharncliffe is going to have that very straight edge that comes to a screaming sharp point. You know, that's your Wharncliffe blades. Now, this being a sheep's foot and having that very steep or that very elongated roll to the tip. It's not steep, it's very rounded to that tip, which makes this a sheep's foot blade. But in some eyes, I could see this being a modified Wharncliffe blade because it has the main attribute that a Wharncliffe has, a straight edge. Now, because of how this is shaped and all that, it does make it a sheep's foot blade, and it could be a modified sheep's foot blade as well. I just think it's very cool. You do not see sheep's foot blades like that very often. Typically, just like you have with the Gungnir here, you have a little bit of belly to these. And it's some of them are very subtle. Some of them are very pronounced. It just kind of depends on the sheep's foot blade. But I just think this sheep's foot Tao in Van X super clean. It's very unique. I love it. It's ultra utilitarian. You know, you still have a point here. It's not as pokey as a true Wharncliffe would be, but it still can, you know, do some poking. And once you get in to the material, this bad boy has a nice straight edge. You're going to be able to slice with this thing all day long. It's beautiful. Titanium scales, Damascus pivot collar, tons of different deployment methods with the hole, the front flipper, the rear flipper, and then you have a wire pocket clip, orange peel finish. This thing is just an exceptional, as I screw up the opening there, exceptional knife. And in the short time that I've owned it, it has performed extremely well. And this will be one of my favorites for the foreseeable future. Let's go ahead and move on to the last one. So this last one is a brand new one to me, and I think it is incredibly unique. We have the EDC Ronin here with this Tanto blade, and it's just a lot of Tantos. You'll see they have a little bit of belly here on this second edge, or they'll have a little bit of belly here with the first edge. And typically, you know, they're not so straight. These are very straight edges, which makes this very unique in my opinion. And I love a Tanto blade because you have slicing capability. You have a secondary tip here that you can do poking tasks with depending on what it is. I have actually found that secondary tip to be very, very useful. I love it. It actually works very good to sink down into cardboard or what have you. But if you need a little bit more pokey poke, you have this beautiful tip right here coming off your secondary edge. And that leads me into this being one of the most well-rounded work knives. You know, I'm talking hands-on work, a carpenter, something like that, where you know you might be getting into scraping tasks. You're doing a lot of slicing. You know, and the other thing about these is they can also get in behind material because of this first edge. You can get in behind it and kind of pull into it, and it is going to, depending on this secondary edge, do a very good job. You know, I just think this is a very unique Tanto blade. You know, it's not very tall, it's not very long, but because of this hollow here and this hollow here, it just makes it very unique and holding straight basically the whole way. I don't think it rounds at all. And if it does, it's very, very minuscule. I mean, almost unnoticeable if it does. I think it's almost all but completely straight. I love it. It's very unique and it's very user friendly. And I believe these are still in stock, which is insane to me. The EDC Ronin. Now, you will not be able to get this exact version. It is a one-off. I do have videos on all these knives if you are interested in checking one out more in depth. I do have a video or videos on all these knives that I've shown here today. Highly recommend going and checking them out, especially the unboxing and full overview of this guy. This is an exceptionally well done knife. Premium Elmax titanium. This is a gold zircuti pocket clip, and it's exceptionally well done. Brass style anodized hardware that is titanium. You know, you have the EMPEDC opening hole, and then you have that awesome front flipper tab that works very, very well. Great ergos, great choke up spot, jimping along the spine. I don't really know what more you could ask for, but that is the EMPEDC Ronin, and that was 6 unique knives with unique blade shapes. I hope everyone has a great day. Give the video a thumbs up. Leave me a comment down below. If you're new here, hit that GBALL Vision logo right there in the center of your screen. I would love to have you here, and I'll throw up 2 more videos for you to go check out right now.